which is entitled Factory Design Custom Assets. This webinar is brought to you by Live Lab Learning, which is a subsidiary of Academic Corp, a wholly owned applied software company which is created to provide world-class training. My name is Trevor Feit, and I'm delighted to be the moderator today. Throughout this presentation, we're going to encourage you to interact with us by typing in your questions and comments using the questions pane. We will be answering questions at the end of the presentation as well. Next slide, please. Just to remind you, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available to you online via our YouTube channel. You'll simply need to go to Google, go to youtube.com and search Live Lab Learning, and you'll see all the webinars that we post to that site. In addition, we will also be sending you an email following the webinar with a link to the recording too. So if you haven't already, search for Live Lab Learning on Facebook and like our page to receive the latest information and special offers that we have. When you visit the livelablearning.com website, you'll see a complete list of upcoming training classes and events there as well. Just a reminder, we've got some additional upcoming webinars. On the 10th, we have one on learning how to leverage the benefits of applied software in Autodesk. It's a really good webinar to show you some of the great tools that you have at your disposal as an applied software client. Big topic that was talked about at Autodesk University last week and is a big buzz amongst all of our clients is the desktop subscription. Autodesk moved from perpetual to term-based licensing. We're going to be talking about some of the advantages of desktop subscription on Wednesday, December 16th. And finally, upcoming on the 13th of January, we're going to be talking about ECOs, ECNs, whatever you want to call them. Engineering change orders is what we refer to them as in Bulk Professional. You can always contact me for more information on these webinars. Check your email, check on social media as well. You'll see links to these webinars as they come up. Just a reminder, at the conclusion of this webinar, we're going to be giving away a $25 Visa gift card. The caveat to that is that you must be registered, you must be present, and paying attention to win the gift card. So please pay attention, ask us some good questions. It will be a random drawing, of course, but we will present that at the end of the webinar. Next slide, please. So with that, I'm going to pass the baton over to my colleague, Dennis Howell, who will be talking about creating custom assets for Factory Design Suite. Thanks, Dennis.
All right. Okay, good morning, folks, or afternoon, I guess, depending on exactly what your time is. I'm Dennis Howell, and just as a quick get us going here, I wanted to talk real briefly what is Factory Design Suite, and it's basically about its workflow, and then we will go into a more focused idea of the demo, particularly on the asset building. Now, what I've got up on the screen here is a couple of screen captures of something that when you install the Factory Design Suite, and by the way, just to note it, I am, as you'll notice, I've got the Ultimate package. These two screens here are actually readily available for you when you install the product. Now, to show you what I mean by that, I'm going to try to, whoops, hang on. Demo Jock is groping here. Let me close that. There we go. And I'm going to bring up that particular screen that I was just showing y'all. So when you install the product, you actually get this screen, and it's nice in that first off it shows you all the applications that are in your particular suite. But the main thing about the Factory Design Suite is the workflows, the integrated workflows between the products. And so it's a single clicks oftentimes to just take it, for instance, from a 2D layout, as you can see listed here in the workflows, to maybe doing a material flow if you've got a warehouse layout, factory layout of the materials going through the warehouse, or factory, as well as then taking it all the way and from like an AutoCAD architecture environment right on into Inventor, and then as well even from the Inventor over into the Navisworks. Those are the three primary applications of Factory Design Suite that the workflows are tying the products together. So instead of you having to manually do some conversions to things from AutoCAD to Inventor to Navisworks, and then reverse process of Inventor to AutoCAD, and then maybe over to Navisworks. The workflows are designed to do that process for you. And so these applications that are the other applications that come with the suite, I personally prefer the Ultimate version specifically because you do get the Autodesk Inventor Professional with the Ultimate version, while the standard version, actually I may have that wrong, it's a premium version, gives you just Inventor, not the Inventor Pro. And I personally prefer the Pro better because of all the design accelerators that are included in the package. If you go to the standard version, you do not even get Inventor. So to me, it's well worth the application suite that you get to go to the Ultimate version. All right, I'm going to close that down now. What I've done is kind of stepped ahead a little bit to have some things already up on the screen. So what we're looking at is the interface that you'll get with the Factory Design Suite. I've already gone into a layout, but it's a completely blank layout right at this moment. Now, I mentioned earlier with the Pro, Inventor Pro, you get the design accelerators, and one specifically up on the design tab, you'll see there's bolted connections, the frame generator, and then all the way over into the environment sections, you do get the cable and harness and the tube and pipe design accelerators. Now, one thing specifically about building assets inside of Inventor. The assets are quick, easy things to grab and put inside of your layout. Over here in this section is your asset layouts. This comes out of box for the most part. You have a various suite here or a layout of different what they refer to as system assets. And as this little blank area here represent is your user custom developed ones. Also, if you develop assets for your environment, all you have to do is add them to your layout over here in the assets as a library, and then you would have access to all of these as well. Now, if I go into the system assets, and in this case under my building utilities, I've got some, whoops, that's not where I wanted to go. Go into everything laid out a little bit differently here when we got into the projection, so it's not where I was actually looking, but here we go. If I go into the layouts here, you'll notice that with these particular assets of these conveyor lines, you'll see there's a little circle up here in the upper right-hand corner. The one on the left is an open circle. The one on the right is a checkbox with a green. Now, these specifically are assets that are referred to as cloud assets, and so even when you create your own assets, you can post them to the cloud, and then everyone has access to them, that they can download and use them too. So if you're very proud of what you've done, you can always put it up there. To download it, it's just a matter of right-clicking on it and saying download the asset. You'll get a little icon showing how long it takes to download, but you can see even before I could finish my sentence, it has already downloaded. And so now that these assets are available that I can use. If you jump around, you'll see you've got a good supply of assets that are provided directly out of the box, and many of these assets, as you can see here in this page, I've got a chair that doesn't have the little circle. I've got a picnic table, doesn't have the little circle. Those are stored on your system when you do the install, but the ones with the little bubble up in the upper right-hand corner will always denote the cloud assets. Even after you've downloaded them, the cloud or the little circle will remain there, but it will remain there with a checkbox on it, a green check saying that you've already downloaded it. Now, in reference to what I was talking about as far as the assets go that you might want to generate, specifically if those assets contain any of the design accelerators, you can actually go ahead and model it inside an inventor and then make use of it to turn it into an asset. Now, the first thing I want to show you is here on the Create Assets. You've got a menu selection here where you can go to Model as Part or as an assembly. That's when you're starting from scratch. I'll show you all that here in just a few minutes. But you can also import your models. And so when I go to grab my model, I've got a file stored somewhere else that I want to work with. So let me go grab it real quick. Inventor will let me open it up. Even though it's not in your project list, it'll allow me to open it up. So I'll say open here. Lets me know that, hey, that's not in your project list, but it lets me open it up anyway. And so I've brought this particular model in. Now, the first thing when you want to look at your model, you want to make sure it's sitting where you want it to. And so the green square that you're seeing there is representative for the landing or the floor that you're going to be placing this particular object. Now, for you that have worked with Inventor before, you'll know that Inventor's up is typically the y-axis, while AutoCAD's up is particularly the z-axis. And so the workflows, when you start tying the two products together, actually conform to one another. And in this case, Inventor changes its ways a little bit. And so even though you may have modeled, in this case, the skid, based on the Y being up, it understands, okay, you're turning me into an asset, and so it turns it around and puts it down on the floor. So that's the first thing to be aware of. The second thing is that, again, recognizing or noticing that I've got a piping layout here. Now, if I don't do anything else to it and just say publish asset, it's going to ask me, first off, it wants to save it, so I'm going to say yes to the saving process and let it run through that. And then it'll pop up your published assets. Now, you've got some 2D options for how it's going to be represented in the flat or in the AutoCAD side, and you've got some 3D options. It's very important, specifically when you have these design accelerator objects in there, to use the simplified method. If you forget and don't use it, I'll go ahead and say okay here and let you see what it does, do some of the automation here that it's running as it builds the asset for you. But if you forget and don't do that, that particular option of simplify, you will get an object. So I'm going to say finish here, and I'll go ahead and jump back to my IAM file, my other one here. I'll go into my user assets, and the preview actually looks pretty good, and that's because they take the preview snapshot off of the actual real model. But when I pick, hold, drag, and drop it into my model here at this point, let it spin a little bit as it brings it in, and then we'll zoom in on it, and you'll see that it brings it in, but okay, there we go. Notice, let me get out of there and get out of the second placement. Notice I lost all my piping, okay? And so again, that simplify step is very, very important. So if you're going through the process and you realize, oops, I don't have pipe, something to, that you used on that, even the cable and harness, to some degree, even the frame generator, you might actually lose it. Now, in this case, you see that the overall skid foundation, I did use a bit of the frame generator to generate it. It pretty much came in pretty nicely. So it's not 100% with the design accelerators that you'll lose it if you don't check that box, but if you do decide you want to use that, make sure you check that box. Now, just to correct the problem, all we have to do now is go back and say recreate, import our model. Actually, I might need to close it here again, and it'll see that I've got it open, so I'll close it back down. So I'll create, import model, once again jumping over to my location where I've got it stored. Again, emphasizing that you don't have to actually keep it all in the same path. So I'll say open here. And then this time, when I go through the process of doing the publishing, I will this time make sure on my 3D options I'll say the simplify. Now you can simplify it ahead of time if you wish. That is a standard inventor command up here in your ribbon area. You'll see it says simplify. But in this case, I'm going to overwrite the existing one now, so I don't have to go back and do a lot of cleanup. I can get it to overwrite it just fine. And then it'll go through, it'll produce the asset. But this time, it'll take a little bit longer if you're sitting there with your watch timing this. And you'll see that it takes a little longer because it's also going through the simplifying process here. So we're about 60%. We're almost finished here. Hopefully, there we go. Now we're finished, so I'm going to say finished. And at this point, I'll remember to close it down this time. And we're back over into my original startup. Go into my user assets, and this time I'll bring and pull it over. And the preview shows it there. I'll place it, let it bring it into my factory layout. And this time I'll say done, and you'll notice that this time now I've actually got my piping listed in there. So that is one important step to be, that to emphasize is that particularly when you're using those design accelerators, but it's not a bad process to do with all assembly files, is to take them through that simplify process to give it a more condensed version of the item that you're wanting to show in your layouts. Now, I'm going to close this particular file down. I'm going to go and open up another one that I've got here where I've got a little bit of a layout. And, oh goodness, I just noticed. Well, let's just start from scratch then. I'll go into a new layout here. Now, once again, one thing Inventor always likes is for us to save things. So I'm going to save it real quick and do a save and overwrite here. And in this case, over here in my assets, I'm going to bounce back up a little bit here so that y'all can see that first off, I've got this library. Although there are some duct layouts that come in the box, you might say, when you do your install, we did develop, also give kudos to Scott Hallmark, who developed some for use for a particular another purpose, and so he developed some very large industrial sized ones. And so in this case, if I grab my vertical rising duct and just place it, and the main thing here I'm going to talk about, I'm going to say done. You'll notice the connectors, these kind of green dots, as they you kind of get close, it'll say, hey, I like that point. So it becomes for us like a snap point. So as you go, it makes it quick and build it. And then we can come over here and grab an elbow real quick and easy as well, and then go back to our straight piece and add it on there. Now in this case, we've done a bit of a layout here. Let me add a couple of more pieces here just for the fun of it. I'll go ahead and grab another straight piece here and show you a little bit about the process then when it comes time to write this over into AutoCAD. Now this is a very simple example. I could have done this with the skid layout that I did as well. But when you say sync to AutoCAD, of course it wants me to save the existing version. First off, you'll notice it produces the 2D equivalent. It'll produce it directly here inside of the Inventor. So you'll see exactly how that layout down there at the bottom is going to look inside of your AutoCAD. And so when I say yes to the prompt there, it'll now take it and lay it over into AutoCAD as well. So AutoCAD, very good, very for the purposes that it was designed for instance, for doing the layout of the drawing, to doing the possibly the floor plan, the walls, doors, windows. AutoCAD very good for that. You do get the version of AutoCAD architecture in the suite, so it makes it real nice to be able to lay those things out very quick and very easy. It is a 2D layout, so you can see it does lay it out, but uniquely it does lay them out flat, but in the appropriate elevations. So you can still see how it's going to interact into the 3D model. Now, I'll drop this back down now. I'm not going to keep AutoCAD open because we're focusing more on the assets here. I'm going to just come over here to the other end. I've got a rectangular, uh, uh, circled rectangular or a round duct, and so I'm going to manipulate the part a little bit until it shows me the connection points that I want it to follow. If you get one dot closer, you see it's actually trying to put the rectangle on the round. So you just kind of manipulate it around until it gives you the piece that you're after. I'll say done there, and so we've got a transition going now. Now, the other thing that's going on here, if you look over here in my list, I don't have any rectangular ducts. So now, okay, I've got to build my own asset here. Now, in this case, what we will do is go up to the Create Assets, and you've got a couple of options here from starting from scratch, which model as a part or model as an assembly. And so it just depends on the environment that it wants you to take you into. In this case, I'm just going to model a straight piece to show you how that's done. So I'll say model as a part, kind of takes you over into a totally another world. And then at this point, we can begin our process here of laying out our part. Now, I'm just going to do a quick rectangle here. I'm not going to try to train y'all at this point on how to model things inside of Inventor. So I'm just going to do this real quick. I'm going to do a rectangle. I'm going to say, okay, this is my duct. I'm going to go ahead and type in a parameter for my values here. So I'm going to do a duct. We'll call this the width. And I'll make it equal to 48. Okay. Tab. Now I'm going to do the height. So duct height. And I will make it equal to, if I could spell right, there we go, height equals 36 in this case. And so now I see my information goes black up there in the little box, so it knows that Inventor's happy with the values that I've put. And with that, I'll zoom back and you can see what we've drawn, finish sketch. Kind of typical Inventor, it likes to throw the screen around a little bit. I'll do an extrusion now. Give myself a good stretch here. This would be something where you might look at the manufacturer and see what they're going to be able to give you. So in this case, I might say 6 foot lengths. So I'll do my tick mark there to get all the way to the 6 foot. I'll say that's good now at this point. And the next thing I'm going to do is to give it more of the look that I might want. I'll go ahead and put a particular material on it. And let's see, I'm going to color it just a little bit different. I'm going to do it a polished blue so that it'll kind of pop out on the screen a little bit so that you can visually see the new part a little bit easier. It'll pop out for us. And a little bit more detail. I'm going to open it up and make it look like a piece of ductwork, so we'll open up the openings there. Now, at that point, I've used my shell tool to just shell it on out. One last thing that we need to add to the model is a location point in the center of the openings on both sides so that we can define easily where the connection points are going to be. Now, to do that, all I have to do is start a 2D sketch on that open side there. And typical Inventor, the way it works, it likes to put a center point into the area that you just selected. So that works perfectly for me. So I'll say finish sketch there. I'll rotate this around. If you look real close, you can see there's a yellow dot represented there, representing the center location point. Same thing over here on the other side now. Place it like so. I get my yellow dot representing the center point. Let me zoom back and look at it real quick. Looks good. File, save as. I will call this my rectangular duct, just as the part file itself, the Inventor part file at this point. And now I can go back to my factory and do the create asset. Whoops, actually asset builder at this point. I've already created it. And you can define certain parameters that are driving parameters, and so you can do that. The main thing to be aware of, though, is the different types of connector classes. Inventor pretty much gives you a good list here to work with. Some of them, even though they refer to cloud in the name, does not require you then to post them to the cloud to work. They can still remain locals. It's just a naming convention that they have used here. So as you scroll up and down, you have a pretty good list of different types of connectors. In this case, I'm going to do a duct connector for a horizontal branch. Okay. We'll add it in as our definition. It's letting me know I haven't placed any connectors yet. So now I'm going to define the connector. And there's my little yellow center point, making it real easy for me to select it. Now, when you look at the icon triad that's represented there, the big red one is saying, okay, when I add, I'm going to add it to that direction. Well, that's exactly opposite of what we need it to be. So what you do is you select the item you want to move, and then you pick a corresponding line that represents the direction you want it to go. So I just picked the inside edge there, say, no, let's reverse that around. Looks good now. I'll say OK. It remains then as a green dot to represent the connection point. Let me go now and put it over on the other side as well. And it by default went to the appropriate side. So again, right-click, OK it. And now I'm going to publish this. Oops, I got to save it, so I'm going to go ahead and let it save it. Since I've already done a pre-save, I don't have to say save as or anything like that. And now back into our 3D options. Notice the simplify is there, but it's so simple as it is, it doesn't even allow me to checkbox it. Okay, so that's something that's easy to forget. So when you're working with your big assemblies, especially those that have design accelerators, you'll definitely want to check that box. But you'll notice here Inventor recognizes that it's simplified as it is. I'm going to say OK to this point now. We'll let it generate the asset. And then I'm finished with the asset builder. I'll go ahead and close this file down now. And over in my user assets now that I just generated, you'll see I've got that rectangular duct. Pick hole, drag and drop. There's my dots. And so I can move it right on up into place and start placing it, making use of it as we go. And yep, if in case you're wondering, that asset now will work with my other assets that I have was using previously. So even though these assets were generated by Scott, I'm able to make advantage of them as well. And so now I can come in and start using those assets that Scott developed for me. And so there we go. Rotate it around. You can see the little bit difference in the blue look there that I added in. Now I'm going to save this. We'll sync it over to AutoCAD once again. Notice that it's generating those flats, the existing flats already there, so it's not didn't went really quickly with those. But with the new area now, it's converting those into sub layouts. You can see now that it generated those down below us. And when I say open it up in AutoCAD, then with the factory design suite workflow, I don't have to say, oh, okay, export this out to AutoCAD or anything like that. Button, boom, it brings it into AutoCAD, and then there's the representation of my layout. Once again, if I rotate this around, it gives us the layout flat, which to work easily with AutoCAD. But as again, it does like to move it up into the elevations. So as far as what I wanted to show y'all today, that's it of how you can go through and create your own assets on the fly. It does add them into your user directory, but of course once they're there you can move them and make them available to anyone else by putting them up on your network, or as I mentioned before, if you're exceptionally proud of them, you can take them and post them to the cloud, and that way they will be available for anybody and everybody else that you might want to show them to. So with that, I think I will hand it back over to, oops, got this backwards. Hand that back over to Trevor, if you would like to take over and finish up the seminar.
Okay. So I wanted to open it up to questions now. Does anyone have any questions? If you would, submit those through the chat window. We'd be happy to take those. So we're going to pause for a moment to see if we have questions that are out there, and we'll answer those and present those answers as best we can.
Okay, I see one question about accessing others' companies' libraries. I've actually never gone to look for other ones. I've just always pulled the direct ones that come out of the box. But what my understanding is that when you publish to the cloud, you do have an option to share anything that you publish to the cloud. So as far as finding something specifically from another client or another company, you may have to just request that they share their cloud content with you. So then at that point, it's up to them on allowing them to do it. I would have to check around to see if anyone, certain companies, I would imagine certain companies out there would love to share their stuff with you, and so they may already have some links up on the Autodesk website where you could access those libraries.
I would add to that also, Dennis, that if you're using Inventor 2016, you do have the ability with AnyCAD to bring in native SolidWorks assemblies, Pro-E, NX, etc., and take those assemblies or parts in their native state, so you don't have to ask for a step or IGES file, and then shrink wrap those assets to use them as well. Okay, we have another question come in. Dennis, do you see the question from Jeff Fisher?
I'm trying, my screen's of course messing up.
The question is, I'll repeat the question. To share assets within a group, does the asset have to be in the cloud, or can it be in a shared project folder? And I'm assuming
it can be in a shared project folder. Let me bring back up my my Inventor. Now I'll need to drop the file down here so that I can access my project settings. But specifically in the project settings, if you edit the path to where you store your assets, if you add it to libraries, then everyone has access to it then at that point. So yeah, put those up on the network and then share that library with everybody. Tell them to add it to their existing projects. That's how I handled it with that particular set that I got from Scott. I just added it as that library. So that's an easy way to do it, to pass it around when you want to control it in your own environment.
Okay, our next question is, what are the PC requirements? That's a doozy right there. As far as what you need to run this entire suite, can you speak to that, Dennis?
Well, I will say with this is that I've had my previous laptop from one I've got here, some of those processes where you're running the workflow going from AutoCAD to Inventor or Inventor like I did back to AutoCAD, could have taken twice as long to do. So horsepower is quite a bit, but I'd have to go back and actually review what the minimum requirements are. You never want to do the minimum requirements. Our recommended requirements is we're saying 16 gigs of RAM, while I think the minimum is like 6 or 8, somewhere in that case. So you do want a machine with some up-to-date hardware and strength to it, so that it can throw these applications around quite a bit.
And I've got a link that I'll be happy to share in the chat pane that shows the system requirements for FDS 2016. But Dennis is exactly right. You can't have too much RAM. The higher speed your dedicated video card is, the better. And those are two good rules of thumb regardless. So whatever Autodesk says that you need, bump that number up. because you're not buying for right now, you're buying for the future as well. Okay, we have two more questions here. The next one is, will the new versions of CAD suites allow hyper-threading, use of multiple CPUs, and unlimited RAM?
As far as the threaded, unthreaded, that kind of thing, Autodesk historically didn't do a whole lot with that, but I think this particular version of Inventor, they're moving toward that more and more. Seems like 15 was trying to use the multi-threading a bit more as well. That's one of those things that it's almost like it's still for me. I don't know a whole lot about it. As a matter of fact, on how much it can use multiple CPUs. I think it still very much works more like I would think. So generally, historically, our recommendation is rather than multiple CPUs, try to work more with a very robust single CPU. But that's something, Trevor, if you know a little bit more about it, feel free to jump in there. But so far, I'm not certain how I know the 3D Studio it works very nicely in a multi-threaded environment and multi-CPUs, but I don't know that Inventor is really necessarily any better with the multiple CPUs versus a good, robust single CPU.
I would second your comment there. We do have a lot of history with 3ds Max being used in a hybrid threading environment and multiple CPUs. We have rendering farms that people will create, for example, to do animations in 3ds Max. But in general, not something I have a lot familiar with, but I am going to send some information on that to everyone who's on the to the webinar. I've got some information I'm pulling up now about it, so we will get an answer on that definitively for you. As far as RAM goes, I don't think you can have too much RAM on a machine. Whatever your slots are going to allow you to put into it, I would load it up. You can't have too much. We have another question. Is there a list showing compatible software files for importing, like ePlan, PromiseE, MicroStation, etc.? You can show that, Dennis, just from the file open or file import pan, I would imagine. Is that correct?
Let's see. If I say file open.
And while you're doing that, I will
there's
say
the
that,
list.
Okay. Can you zoom on that just a little bit?
That I don't know, can I?
But I would answer the question more specifically. MicroStation, the DGN format, I don't believe is one that natively comes in, because you're obviously talking at that point, and this is where the CAD geek in me gets going, you're talking about levels versus layers, blocks versus cells. DGN has always been a bugger when it comes to converting and bringing in to a DWG environment. ePlan and PromiseE, I believe at the end of the day, they write out DWG files. They're both electrical programs. ePlan I'm not so sure about because that's a European product, but PromiseE loads on top of AutoCAD as a module, from what I recall. So DWG should be able to come in with no issue whatsoever. Does that answer your question, Casey?
I know if you Google it too, you can find links out there that'll give you a list of it as well if this is hard to read.
Right. Yeah, because the files you ask about are non-typical 3D modeling content, like as opposed to SolidWorks, CATIA, etc. But we'll get some information on that as well. I'm taking a list of questions. Any additional questions? Okay, going once. Going twice. Okay. Those are all the questions for now. You should have seen my email address at the beginning of the presentation. If you go back to watch the the webinar later, you'll see my email address on one of the first couple of slides. If you have any additional comments or questions, I will be happy to answer those as well. And Brianna has chosen a winner. I've stayed out of this so that there's no partiality here, and the winner is Kazan Alcala, which I believe you go by Casey. Is that correct? I think it is. Kazan Alcala is the winner of the $25 gift card. We will make sure that that card gets out to you. And for the rest of you, thanks for playing, so to speak. With that, I believe that's the last slide that we have in the presentation. Thank you very much for joining us and for attending. You can see here my email at the bottom of the screen if you have any additional questions or comments, and I will get some answers on hyperthreading and the other question on compatible software files for importing as well. Get that information over to everyone who was on this webinar. Thanks again, and look forward to seeing you on future webinars as well.